Hi, I'm Kara, content creator and Facebook wrangler for Amico Brent, bringing you ideas and support for your creative adventures every day. This week's episode is brought to you by Amico Brent. Find your favorite Amico glaze at your local distributor. Happy glazing!
Welcome to the Tales of a Red Clay Rambler podcast, featuring interviews with culture makers from around the world. This is Ben Carter. I'm going to be your host. If you'd like more information on the show, please visit our website, talesofaredclayrambler.com. Welcome back to episode 443 of the podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Today we have another episode in our series of live tapings that happened at the Envision Woodfire North Carolina conference in May of 2022. Today, guest host Mark Hewitt talks with Priscilla Mouritzen, Diego Valles, and Carla Martinez Vargas about their ceramic practices and how their work represents their home country. Diego and Carla are part of the Mata Ortiz tradition in Chihuahua, Mexico, and Priscilla was born in South Africa, but has lived in Denmark for many decades. To find out more about the artist, you can visit the conference website, which is woodfirenc.com. Without further ado, we'll get to the interview.
Welcome, everybody. We have a terrific group assembled today. We're one of the penultimate panels here at the conference, and I'd just like to send out a series of thank yous to our hosts, Starworks, and the incredible team that they have here to being able to create such a beautiful event. And I'd in particular like to thank Mary Holmes for all the work that she's done. And by way of your Irish heritage, bring up the subject that is the topic of this panel, which is across the globe, and to recognize how many people are here from all the different corners of the world. And I mean, just this morning, I had the most wonderful little sit down with Miriam and Ibrahim and another gentleman whose name I don't know, who comes from Iraq. So there was an Englishman, an Afghan, German, an Egyptian, and an Iraqi, all in Star, North Carolina. I mean, we're clearly on another planet, and a much more beautiful place than this Earth sometimes can be. And I think that sense of community that we've been able to generate here across cultures, across time zones and histories, recognizing our individual brilliance and our collective brilliance. That's what I have enjoyed most, and the beautiful connections, the human connections that we have with each other as wood firers, as potters, and as human beings. So with that, I'd just like to have our panelists introduce themselves very quickly, and then we really don't have a theme. We're going to have a conversation about why we do, what we love about what we do, what our struggles are, and what we're looking forward to.
Well, when it comes to the global, our description is across the globe of this panel. I have lived my life across the globe in that I was born in South Africa and started as a child doing ceramics there. And I wouldn't say fled, but I definitely left when I turned 18 with the conviction that I couldn't continue living under the apartheid regime. So full of overfull of self-confidence, I went to Europe and continued my ceramic life there. After 10 years or so, scraping a living and having success and establishing my own kiln in England, I met a Dane and moved to Denmark to take on the role of a Danish potter after 40 years. It's not easy to become integrated in a new country. And I think I reacted against the Scandinavian purity of form and lack of decoration, but that was part of the joy of making my own work in a new country. So that is the basis of my daily life, being in Denmark.
Well, I'm Diego Valles. I'm a Mata Ortiz potter from Chihuahua, Mexico. And probably we're the least travel of you all, so we haven't seen much, but coming to gatherings like this one has exposed us to the world. Just like Mark say, we come here and we meet people from all backgrounds, and the common thing we have with you all is clay, of course, and so we really enjoy it.
Good morning. My name is Carla Martinez. I am a proud potter. All the time I work on miniatures. I'm a teacher, and I work for an elementary school, and part-time and part-time with the clay, and I'm so thankful to be here. It has been a very challenging week. Just this morning we had a flat tire. Yeah, so I said, okay, today is Sunday, the weekend is going to finish pretty soon. And yeah, I'm very thankful. These kind of events make us feel like renovated. We come back with a great experience. It was a pleasure to meet many potters and to see, or at least to feel their souls through their ceramics. And so I'm very thankful. I hope we can enjoy this moment and share as much as possible. My curriculum is not as incredible and long and enrichment like Priscilla's, like Mark, but here we are to share what we feel and how do we express or we support our ideas through the ceramics.
Well, I'd like you to actually continue to explore that with reference to your work and the tradition that you come from, and examine what are you saying with your work? What are you expressing? What are the joys and the delights that you have in the work that you do when you see a pot finished on a gallery downstairs or in El Paso or in Mata Ortiz? What are you expressing?
Well, what a difficult question, but I would like to express more. I always try to express what I support or what I disagree. For example, I have a piece, I made it, it's a wedding piece with the two hummingbirds on the top. One is white and the other one is black. And I'm trying to express that no matter religion, color, beliefs, love is love. That's an idea. And how do I feel when I see one of my pieces? It's like, I couldn't say that I feel proud, but I feel so happy when I see one of my pieces ready, or when I see people that really enjoy the piece. That's the best. It's the best compliment you can have, when you see a piece finally on an exhibition. But I would like to mention something. It's very important to see the final piece, but to me, it's very enjoyable, the process. It's not only the final piece, it's like the life, It's like I would like to get many things, but during the path, It's the feelings or what you're feeling during the process. Yeah.
Well, we talked a little bit about what do we want to express, with our work yesterday with Priscilla and Mark and Carla. And I mentioned that it's something that I've been struggling with, because we work with some style which is very abstract, only lines. And yes, they might be pretty sometimes, but it's difficult to really express something. It's not figurative work, and it's not really a narrative work, unless we really intend to do so. But because of the background with the tradition and all, it's hard. It's hard to express something with lines, with symmetry. It's more difficult. But again, I was mentioning that last evening. We went to NCCA in Kansas in 2016, was that? And all the shows that I went to and the talks that I went to see, left me not empty, because I gained a lot of the experience. I went to listen to Roberto Lugo. I went to see other shows, and I questioned myself after every talk, after every exhibition that I visited, and I guess that's the real purpose of art, any media, right? To move you do something, or at least that should be the purpose. I think just looking at something and just looking at it as a beautiful object, to me, that doesn't really count. That's good. It's good that some can achieve that, but I think ever since that in Sika, I kept feeling I'm not doing enough, or what am I doing? Is it relevant what I'm doing? Because I cannot express many things that I want. And I understand that's a struggle for every artist. But as I say, in my case, it really hit something, going to these shows and these talks. And I really tried after that, I think, in fact, the pieces that I'm more happy with, happened after 2016, and mostly because of that I really realized, what I was doing, at least to me, yes, it was relevant for my community. It was getting our name out of our little town and putting it somewhere else, letting it be known in other places. But other than that, I wasn't really expressing myself or anything, So I've been trying to put focus more on what I want to express, and I'm not there yet. But more and more often, I've been getting pieces that I'm happy with in that intent, and mostly emotions, and daily life feelings or happenings, everything that moves us, like any political happenings, any social. Everything, daily life, that's what I'm trying to put into my pieces, and express. The pieces we have downstairs at the show, in my case, don't really express anything, but I'm trying to,
Well, I think your work actually speaks more than you're saying and represents an expression of you and your place and the continuity of the tradition you belong to and your particular voice. I think you're succeeding brilliantly. And we'll come back to more questions. We'll listen to Priscilla talk about what you're hoping to do with your work.
I think in our discussion yesterday and in this discussion now, we've got a real bond of feelings about this, because it's exactly what I feel with my work. I'm sort of reaching out to the public who might see them in an exhibition or on a craft fair, and what I hope is that some magic happens. And occasionally, not only does it happen privately to the person seeing them, but they come and say things to you as an artist. A woman rushed up at the craft fair in the Fruplads in Copenhagen and said to me, standing with my work amongst all the Danish craftspeople of different disciplines, yours is the only one with soul. And that just made me so moved because it was exactly, in a way, what my work, I was hoping, had somehow on its surface something which showed I had been there on that piece. It wasn't perfection. It wasn't Danish design pared down to the core. It was a wobbly little pot with soul. Another customer was a woman who bought a similar little pot and said it was for her son who was going to study in the US, and she wanted him to have something on his shelf which she felt would give him that little extra feeling of home, and it was my pot she chose. That shows you that you're reaching out, is hitting a spot. And yet another person many years ago described some of my throne work as lyrical. And you store up these gems from the public, and they keep you on your track somehow.
I've been thinking so much about this idea, and now that I'm listening, Priscilla and Diego, it's sometimes we have only a beautiful piece that we couldn't express a specific topic or an idea, because of the style that you're working on. But that piece let you go maybe a museum and let you express there in the museum or support an idea, maybe not exactly on the piece, but that piece is giving you the opportunity to say, here I am, and this is what I think. With the person or the persons or the people who really want to hear. As an artist, that's part of our job.
This conversation is fascinating. I'm reminded of something I read in a book by Milan Kundera, the Czech novelist, who saw some flowers in a farmer's market, and he called them a talisman of hope. And I think about that with reference to what you've been saying, Priscilla and Carla. And I'm also reminded of something I read. It's actually written by Edmund de Waal years ago in an anthology, a collection of essays. And he was talking about, he's referring to an old English book, Gulliver's Travels, by Jonathan Swift. And he was talking about craftspeople who were silently pointing at their work, saying, look at this, look at what we're doing. But in a way, he thought of it as being powerless, that the work that we do, we put our hearts and souls into it, and we have a language which is wood-fired, clay, decoration, shape, form. But it's a non-verbal language, and but it has power, and it's our expression. And how do we move forward from our individual voice to making it more visible in the world, making it stronger in the world? I wonder how we can do that, particularly in this globally connected world. Here you are from Mexico. You're here in North Carolina. You go to shows in El Paso. You go to China. You go to all these places. How is the sort of the global interactions that you've had? How is that impacting you as individuals and in your work?
Well, I think for us, especially for us, because we come from a very small community, we're less than 1,400 people and lost in rural northern Mexico. There is nothing around us, and cultural and artistically, there isn't much going on there, mostly because of the emptiness, But at the same time, if we pay attention, there is a lot going on. And yes, our work, whether I really enjoy it or not, I do enjoy it, by the way. I love what I do, but don't get me wrong, but sometimes I want to say more than I can. But yet it's allowed us to travel and expose ourselves to the world and to all this magnificent art happening. But also, it has made us realize all that is possible for us, and all that it is possible for the community, and how relevant our movement in Mata Ortiz is, how important it is in the art world, really. And that's another churning, for me. I want to have my fellow potters in Mata Ortiz this opportunity. I want them to see what else is available, what else is there. A lot of these potters, they do not travel at all. They haven't traveled even within the state. And you see the work they do, how beautiful it is, and you say, damn, they should come out, they should come out, or we should bring them in. We should bring the world to the community. So that's, this is probably not very related, but we're working on these, on this trip, it's give us so much to think about. We've had the time, right? 3 days at the airport. So we've been, we've been thinking, we founded a small non-for-profit, organization in Mata Ortiz, Carla and I, and one of the main objectives of the group is to, help students from the community to go into university. I was the first one in the community to go into engineering, and now we are supporting 27 students. They're studying all different degrees, law, medicine, education. But we're starting to lose the tradition, because all parents, we all want our kids to go to school, right? And the kids are starting to look into the tradition as something that is kind of keeping them down, or really stuck in the community. So we've been thinking, as I said the last days, what if we, instead of paying for this next semester for the kids, we pay them for a trip to Wood, Fire, and Vision, expose them to the world, to these kids, show them how professional it can be to become a potter. Not only a job, not only because it's your only option, but if they come to spaces like this, where they see how much respect a potter has, and how much it can be achieved through art, then maybe we can motivate them to, yes, go into school, but maybe they can study art, maybe they can study ceramics, maybe they can study marketing and help their fellow potters to export their pottery. So, being exposed to the world changes everything, right?
Being exposed to the world and taking great bites of what our field has out there is part of the joy of living. And the complex way my life works is that it's on two completely separate joint fields. The one is the intensely private atmosphere of my studio, where even the family members knock on the door, don't come in, don't criticize the state of my shelves and suggest I might tidy up. Know that there's nothing to be said there except dinner's ready or such a thing, such a message. And then the fact that I'm very involved in our residency center, Goulet-Agor, which I was a co-founder of and have been a long-running board member, fortunately just about to retire from that role. And I'm a user of it, and I'm a frequent visitor and dinner guest, as in the winter when we have the young graduates, I tend to drop down, share dinner with them, and then give a talk after dinner, just to get to know that particular lovely group of 12 or 10 young graduates from all over the world. And what a gift to have come into your life, access to the social and the inspiring artistic works of a residency center. And then the next layer of my life is the fact that I take a leap out into the world and have participated like some crazy groupie in many residencies. partly as a way of backing up our residency. Oh, well, if I can try and get a residency there, I can see how they function, and I can bring some things home to us. So at one time I had a fantasy of doing all the red. I did Red Lodge, and I thought then would do Red Deer, and there's Red something in Kansas, and, but I only got as far as Red Lodge. But in my slides here, I've just put images from a wonderful residency in Langzhou in Western China, where we were used, a little group, 3 people from outside China, as not even mentors, more subjects to study, to show the students at an art school which has developed ceramics that there are other human beings out in the world doing the same strange craft as they were, that they didn't only have their professor and their teacher as role models, but we dropped in from outer space. Patsy Cox, Keith Ekstam, and I, and worked each in our own way. So that was an extreme residency, and from there I returned to my lonely basement studio with great joy also, because that is the base of my daily work and life.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Hey, this is Brooks Oliver, an artist and board member at the Archie Bray Foundation. We are looking for nominations for our board and invite you to self-nominate or suggest a friend. We are looking for nominees that are creative thinkers who are committed to community and promoting, celebrating, and sustaining the ceramic arts. You can find more information about our open call by searching Board of Directors at archiebray.org.
Another theme that has been cropping up for me, actually partly, from all these talks, and Miriam's in particular, made me wonder about hierarchies in the ceramic world and the sort of caste system that we have that's pyramid-like. And it relates back to almost like the comment I made with Garth Johnson about Simone Lee and the notion of failed utopias. And, there are people at the top of the ceramic pyramid who seem to want to forget about pottery and clay. And, I've heard any number of lectures and seekers which said, well, I used to be a potter, but now I saw the light and I've become an artist. And, or I've gone to art school, or I'm making sculptural work now. And there's when I look at the slides of Miriam's, and I see all those potters with these highly specialized skills, and somehow we diminish that. Despite looking at those big piles of similar pots, they're almost like installations. Or I was thinking about that wonderful picture of the narrow-neck bottles all stacked up in a kiln. And that reminded me of the Peacock Room at the Freer, which is sort of an elaborate, very high-end installation of amazing pots. But I'd take that kiln any time, and seeing, it was incredible to see that. So I just wonder if we can sort of address that, the ideas of hierarchies, and how we address, like within Mada Ortiz, like, who are the people that get the attention? Who are the people that are the stars? Who are the people that are making regular wear that is maybe less expensive, less recognized? How do we work to make that? How does that work? Does it matter?
Well, again, I'm going to speak from my perspective, from our community. It's very established. These potters. We're, like I say, less than 1,400 potters in the community. 1,400 people, about 400 potters, and not everybody works at a high quality level, but we've been pushing for equality, where we live, because the most respected potters, some of them, they might look down onto the potters that are studying, and it's very visible, So, and I'm always open about this, and I don't know if I'm probably doing us a misfavor, not good, but this is reality, and we need to speak about it, and back at home we do. We all make the community, and I guess it's the same for us all in the world, no matter what you do, somehow it is relevant. If it is not relevant right at the moment, and like I say, it's not really expressing much right there, as a collective it is, and in our case, in the community, everybody makes it, let's say 200 out of these 400 potters are making only little pieces that are souvenir-like for the tourist. But if we remove them all from the community, what is left might not be there. So we all make the tradition, we all make the community, and it's just the same in the world, like everybody is relevant. Some of us are trying to do things that are different, but there is relevance in everything. That's what I see, and I always try to emphasize that back at home and when I'm out, like all these potters, selling outside the houses of the more well-known potters, when they have a group, a museum company or a tour, they are relevant. Without them, nobody else will be there, because you might be just a very good artist, a great artist, but if you're lost in the middle of nowhere just by yourself, you might not get all the attention and all the people that the other people brings to you, So it is very important, to work as a group, in many ways. I love that about the talk. I don't know the name of the person who presented the talk about the Japanese potter who lost his kilns to the earthquake, and how that tragedy, not only the earthquake and all that, but losing the kilns, really started something else, more sharing between the potters in that place, and how working together is starting to make things better in a way over there.
I'm not sure if we really should talk or see on this way a community, a pottery community, As Diego mentions, everybody is doing a different work. And as an individual, you should be worried or working on yourself, on your work. It's like, yes, we are more than 400 or around 400 potters, but my the people who is competitive, with me, it's myself. It's like I have to be worried about myself, about my work. I don't have to look the rest of the community as, oh, that one is better or that one is doing a very simple work. No, it's like, it's my work, the one that I should be worried, or the one that I have to be concentrated, And I don't think that is a good idea to see a community on different levels. It's like you go see all what the community is as a community, and that's it. I don't feel like I'm on top 5. I'm on top 10. No. I'm working on my ceramics. I'm trying to do every day a new idea or express something. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not trying to win a competition, to be on the next level. No, I'm trying to work every day better than yesterday. And that's it for me.
Yes, I think when one comes into a new country, as I did, going to Denmark, and slowly tries to feel the ripples and the waves, joins the ceramic community through exhibiting in galleries and meeting the others in the same field. And of course there are groups, and there are people who went to the same school, and there is someone who's trying to be the sort of guru of that particular group. And one can only say, my experience is the only place to be is the outsider, and to be completely free of the threads which bind people who've been raised in that culture. And it gives you a freedom to both observe and to join with those who are relevant to what you're doing. And living in Denmark, it's a small country, but a very short journey to Sweden, to Norway, to Germany. We can be in Berlin by lunchtime. And Holland is a great mecca, I've found, because the Dutch potters are wonderfully open, as say the Scandinavians and the Finns and the Norwegians are more difficult to get to know. So going to Holland to take part in a ceramic event is like a wonderful boost to one's social skills, and observing. I know we have observed the level of their homes and their cars, and thinking, well, how do these Dutch potters manage so well here? And realizing they're living in a clay community and have got all the good things of life and are not necessarily battling with Scandinavian prices, cost of living. But what can I say? I think that freedom to move around and to be not to be influenced by what other people think, taking the knocks that you get on the way from the closed shop of some groups of ceramic artists. The best thing is making your own way. And there again we come to galleries, that having a contact with a wonderful gallery, as I did in Stockholm for years, that meant that nothing could affect my flow of work, because I was working with a man who really showed my work well, and working for exhibitions. It distracts you from any other quibbles around the small fry of the ceramic world.
Yeah, it's interesting as an outsider you bring up a topic that's close to me, being an outsider here in North Carolina. And my take on that has always been that I have the greatest respect for places. This was actually brought up in the introduction to Miriam's talk about the history of landscape, and the cultural, economic, political geography of a place resonates with me. I don't just see the surface. I want to go back and learn how it got to be where it is now. And on that journey, I've delved at great depth into the histories of individual pottery communities, whether in the Catawba Valley, the Moravian traditions, the Alamance County traditions, the Seagrove traditions. And I found there to be it's like a touchstone. It's a wellspring of incredible talent and incredible expression. It's like I'm talking to my ancestors, or they're not my ancestors, they're the people from this place, and I'm of this place now. And that sort of assimilation of old struggle, of old attempts to express yourself with clay that's regionally specific, that really matters to me. And I inevitably, I can't help but bring myself to that place too. So it's that curious nexus of individuality and community. And maybe we can continue on that theme, and other people in the past whose work you are looking to, or where else are you looking for your inspiration? If not in your community, where else are you looking? And across the world.
I just saw out of the corner of my eye the last 2 slides of my little collection. And the one was a Neolithic pot from Langzhou in China. And I've seen those pots since I came to England and saw pots in the British Museum, which inspired me from that period in China. And to be in that town and to see them being dug up at all the construction sites around the city, that was most inspiring, because as a hand builder, one relates directly to those pots, and the clay which we were struggling with, which was dug up in the same pits where they were finding the pots, was also, you had the feeling you were building vessels with the same materials as those early potters. And then, in returning to Denmark, my local library gave, you could borrow a year card to the National Museum, where I hadn't been for some years, and you could just take this membership of the museum card out for a month. So an intense month, I went frequently to the National Museum, and the second slide I show is of a pot from the Danish National Museum, which is just as inspiring to me as the wonderful Neolithic pots from China. And it was right on my doorstep. And I went with one of my sons, and in fact, for 2 visits, we never got as far as the Viking period, because the Stone Age and Bronze Age was so wonderful that every time we got up to the Viking rooms, they seemed over-decorated, and we would flee back into the early pots. So that is where I've sort of got a new burst of energy and of inspiration right on my doorstep.
Well, in my case, lately I've been exploring the kintsugi technique from Japan, and the thing that really attracts me to that is more the philosophy behind that, and I don't know how is it gonna be seen, because it's from Japan, but I think it's also universal because of the philosophy, of how important it is to keep not the wounds open, but visible. This is who I am. These are my scars, these are my battles, and this is what I've been through. And I think, so some of the pieces, I hope there is one there, the heart shape which it was broken, unintentionally. So we fix it that way. But lately I've been doing that, with intent, breaking pieces, chipping off and putting them back, trying to express something, and I don't know if I'll continue to do that, but it's part of my exploration towards, putting expression, meaning in the pieces.
Yeah, they look like hearts, for organs.
Yep. And at home, I think, I have a very good chance to collaborate and hear little figures and both styles, although they belong to the same, bigger style, we can really express much more together. I'm trying not to collaborate that much with her, not to give her another chance to kill me or another pretext, but yeah, I think collaborative work, not only with other potters but with other techniques, doing it in a respectful way, it could lead to so much, and it does already, But in our case, we're just starting that, and I think it's great, the possibilities, of collaboration in styles and techniques and materials and with other people.
Yeah, well, basically, talking about the inspirations, I get inspirations from outside and from inside of myself, because I really love what I do. And for example, I made a set of, I don't think there is a picture here, dancers. They were dancing to the Virgin, and it's a way to express what I really love from my community. I love the matachines, we call them, the dancers, and so it's the way I express. I got inspiration from them, and it's the way I express what I'm really proud of about the community, And talking about the collaborations, Diego and...
She has tried to kill me.
No. We have been working on some collaborations, and we have been very successful in that. Even that the process is not easy, because of his ideas and mine. And let's talk about something different. Yeah, and I have a piece. There is a picture where it's a miniature with a dry tree on the top of the lid, and I'm expressing or getting inspiration on the region. The government is trying to build a dam, and if they make it, it's gonna be a terrible ecological disaster. And that's what I know that is a very small piece, but it's how I am looking the project. It's, I don't know.
Yeah, like Carla said earlier, you might not completely achieve full expression, with a piece, but the piece is taking you places where you could speak about what you wanted to say, And like for us, and art is political, of course, all the time, but in back there, being so isolated from the Mexican art world, which is more from central of the country to the south, is harder, and with our way of expression is much harder. But if we go to a show where we have somebody involved with politics, the governor or any council people, then we can have that piece and say, hey, you look at that dry tree, you know why is that? What might cause that? Lack of water, you're going to kill the river. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to lose the forest we have around. The rains are scarce anyway, so it's going to be even worse. So yeah, expressing with our words what we cannot express with our hands, it's also a collaboration there,
Yeah, no, that's really interesting to think of the bravery that we all have to sit down and make art, make pots, make things that are not as strange and peculiar and awful as what the rest of the world is doing. I mean, there's something, we're kind of warriors in our own way to try and defend beauty and decency and self-expression and the environment. That attempt to express something different with the medium of our choice in our own particular places as a result of all the history that we have. And there's a mug of mine up there, which it's got a lot of blue glass on it, and the slip is Mitchfield clay, which is something that's it's not very plastic, but it's got great color. So I thought one day, well, I'm just going to use it as slip. If I put it in a clay body, it makes my life really difficult. So I love the color, so I'll just use it as a color. And to me, it's like, wow, that opens up so many aesthetic possibilities. And I'm just really enjoying playing with that. And it's sort of just a very simple little thing, but it feels, in my small way, it feels brave. And when you have a revelation and you put it out into the world. I don't know, maybe you've got moments of revelation like that too.
Well, not necessarily moments of revelation, but one thing that I find inspiring is working on two very different scales. Small, 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 and big enough to lean your elbow on. And working in two different materials. I never make the big enough to lean your elbow on in porcelain. I'd always use terracotta, preferably. And small, I use porcelain. And playing with those two things and then seeing the smaller thing as my graphic work and seeing the bigger thing as my painterly work. And in addition to that, going in the winter to a graphic workshop and doing graphic on paper and finding there again a lovely, lightly sketched network around the world of potters who do graphics and getting a sort of kinship with some, even the finer group potters who make pinch pots and do graphics, and having these sort of, you could almost call them sisterhoods. In that case, is a sisterhood, a feeling with people who one has been in residency with and has done work either linked by scale or linked by material or linked by doing, say, drawing or graphics parallel to the ceramics. It's an incredible privilege to be able to design one's own life, taking in these the side shoots of one's central practice.
Any other comments? I mean, I think it's really interesting to explore, what we're doing now and what we're looking forward to, what these avenues of exploration that we're gravitating towards. It's sort of recognizing who we are and where we live and what our role is in the wider community, and summoning up the courage to continue going against the odds. And sort of economics is something that hasn't been touched. We haven't really also touched environmentalism during this conference. It's sort of like one of the elephants in the room. We're here gathered from all the corners of the world. We've traveled by plane. We've, burned a lot of carbon to put this conference on. And, but yet individually, our impact isn't as great as perhaps, a big coal-fired power plant in West Virginia, or, how do you see, this is a very disturbing time in human history. How do you see things happening, changing? I don't want to end on a sort of a dystopian note, really. We should be much more optimistic, but, maybe we can just quietly address that, or quickly address those issues, and how the pandemic has affected us and what we're hoping for. you jump in. Nobody wants to go.
I think there are two things that are immediate to now. The one thing is we have opened the doors of our residency to any Ukrainian refugees who are from our world of ceramics in any field, or can use our upstairs studios, which are more flexible for any art practice. And we have, of course, residency beds. So we are reaching out to the people who have made it to Denmark from the Ukraine, and that they don't need to sit staring at the wall in a reception center, but come to us. And that is just starting to roll now. The other, as you say, the elephant hanging in the elephant in the room, or rather the elephant hovering over the kiln yard, is the fire regulations and the Clean Air Act. All household wood-burning stoves have to meet terrific criteria now, and old ones are scrapped by the chimney sweep who controls them. And we know we have our chimney sweep as a good friend of the center, but the regulations are coming from the state, and our Olsen kiln will not be able to belch black smoke in the dark of night sometimes, so that nobody actually sees it, but everyone can smell it. So we have to clean up our act generally in the coming year.
Wow, it's a short time frame.
Well, it's been coming up slowly, so it's now.
Well, the difficulties of the last times, that having present forever, I guess, it's just the pandemic has made us realize, really pay attention to what was going on. But it also, it's showing us how lucky we are, how blessed we are as potters, that we have this medicine in clay that we can always run to, right? Who during the pandemic here didn't get depressed at times, and who in those cases didn't just rush to the studio, rush to the hills and dig for some clay and got in touch with earth, with Mother Earth, and through clay and heal ourselves, through that. at least for us, the last times, everything, not only the pandemic, the economic recession, the political world we live on, it's been terrible, but we always have this medicine in clay, and if we look at it at the bright side of things, this isolation, not only because of the pandemic again, but also because of our differences with our neighbors, politically, but we can always come back to art and agree on that, right? We can always agree on clay, and that's great. We are so blessed, as a community, the potters around the world, we are so blessed that we have such a strong, commonality, it's really what we should focus on, I think, without forgetting or neglecting reality, because that's not gonna take anybody anywhere. But if we can agree on clay, no matter the difference we see in all the work downstairs, then we can start solving other problems, right?
Weeks ago, as I told you, I am an elementary teacher, and we were sharing our experiences as teachers during the pandemic, how difficult it was for us, and as parents. And I expressed an idea that I said, for me, the pandemic was so sad on the economic situation. We had events and everything was canceled, but I don't know if these are the correct words, but it was a bless for me because I had the time to work on clay, and it saved me. It makes me feel so good. The pandemic gave me the time to be with my daughters at home, and I could work more on clay. So individual, that's how I felt. Of course, economically was a disaster. I know it. I feel it. But it was a bless to me to have the time to work with the clay, with the family. We could have that connection. And yeah, as Diego told you, art saves us, really.
Well, it's all one. Everybody's been saying the most wonderful things. I really appreciate everybody's input, and I'm sure there's input that we can gather from the audience. I just want to say thank you again to all the organizers and to the individual members of the panel. It's been a real treat to get to know.
Before we leave, yes, I'd like to thank Ben for making the connection for us, to come here to Woodfire. We met Ben 10 years ago at another small conference, and that's how we were able to come here. So thank you, Ben, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mary, for putting up with all the craziness of the last days. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everybody. We're very happy to be here.
I'd like to thank Mark for guest hosting this episode of the podcast, as well as Priscilla, Diego, and Carla for coming on the show. If you're interested in finding out more about what's happening down in Star, North Carolina at StarWorks, this conference was just one of a whole slate of activities that they have planned throughout the year. You can find out more about them by going to starworksnc.org. Also wanted to take a minute and thank Amoco Brent for sponsoring this episode of the show, as well as for their ongoing support of the Brickyard Network. If you or your organization is interested in becoming a sponsor on the show, you can go to brickyardnetwork.org. I'll be back next week with another episode. Thank you all for tuning in. If you'd like more information on the artists on the show, or if you'd like more information about the workshops and events that I'll be having in the next couple months, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Carter Pottery. Another great way to support the show is to leave me a comment on iTunes. To do that, search Tales of a Red Clay Rambler under iTunes Podcasts, and you'll find a page that's linked to our show. Thank you guys for the support.
This podcast is a production of the Brickyard Network, an extension of the Archie Bray Foundation for the Ceramic Arts. To find out more about our lineup of ceramic podcasts, visit brickyardnetwork.org.